Not all individuals in the maritime domain possess an inherent familiarity with specialized terminology, such as port, harbor, dock, pier, quay, wharf, or berth. However, during their foundational maritime studies or practical onboard training, they will cultivate a thorough comprehension of these concepts. It is paramount to clarify these terms at the outset of maritime education, as this establishes the groundwork for formidable seamanship and proficient operational communication. Harbor can be a natural or artificial sheltered area for ships. Harbor is a part of a body of water protected and deep enough to be a place of safety for ships. A specific spot where a ship is anchored or moored in a harbor or at a dock. Harbor provides shelter for ships from strong winds, tides, and winds. Harbor can be 1. Natural harbor. No protective man-made structure. 2. Semi-natural harbor. Mostly natural, but some man-made protection. 3. Artificial harbor. Man-made protections. Location. 1. Seashore harbor. 2. River harbor. 3. Lake harbor. 4. Canal harbor. Classification of harbor. 1. Marina harbor. 2. Military harbor. 3. Commercial harbor. 4. Fishery harbor. 5. Harbor of refuge. A port is a maritime facility comprising one or more wharves or loading areas, where ships load and discharge cargo and passengers. Although usually situated on a sea coast or estuary, ports can also be found far inland. Ports facilitate loading and unloading of cargo. Harbor used for commerce and trade. Anything that generates revenue. All ports are harbor, however, all harbor are not ports. A quay is a structure built along the shoreline for docking. A quay is a structure built along the shore, similar to a wharf, but may be constructed on filled land. A solid platform lying alongside or projecting into the water for loading/unloading ships. Quay, part of the riverbank or coastline modified to be used for mooring. Mooring, any permanent structure to which a vessel may be secured. A wharf is a structure parallel to the shore, typically used for berthing ships and facilitating cargo operations. A structure built on the shore or riverbank for ships to do. A berth is a specific spot where a ship can moor. Berth is the term used in ports and harbors for a designated location where a vessel may be moored, usually for the purposes of loading and unloading. Berths are designated by the management of a facility. Berth, also a quay at which ships dock in a port or terminal, only refers to the landing spot. Does not include warehouses. Each terminal or port had several berths, so they can service several ships at one time. A dock is a specific area where ships can load and unload. An enclosed water area where ships are moored for loading, repairs, or rest. Dock, an enclosed area of water in a port where loaded, unloaded, built, and repaired. 3 types of docks. 1. Wet docks, gates to control water. Allow ships with high tidal ranges to remain afloat at low tide. 2. Dry docks, have gates that allow water to be emptied for maintenance of underwater parts. 3. Floating dock, lift a ship out of water when no land-based facilities are available. Pier extends into the water. A pier is a structure that projects out into the water, often perpendicular to the shore, and can be used for various purposes like berthing, recreation, or as a breakwater. A raised structure on pillars, extending into the sea, used for docking or passenger access. Pier, pillars on platform or pillars. From shore into structure. Open structure. 3 main type of pier. 1. Working pier handling of passengers onto and off of ships. 2. Pleasure pier often include amusement and theaters. Tourist attraction. 3. Fishing pier allow deeper fishing without boat. A jetty is a structure built out into the water from shore, serving multiple purposes like providing a landing place for boats, protecting shorelines from erosion, or influencing currents and tides. Jetty, long narrow structure from shore to open water. Protect shoreline.
Nautical infrastructure, such as harbours, ports, quays, wharves, berths, docks, piers, and jetties, are often difficult to differentiate, as many of them are used interchangeably, and often where there is one, you will find another. For example, a commercial harbour, which some people would call a port, might have a dock, which in Britain would refer to this area of water. But in North America, dock would refer to all of this land, which you could also call a wharf or a quay. Even civil engineering resources, encyclopedias, and government maritime resources often differ when explaining their specific definitions. A harbour is a structure that partially encloses a portion of water to provide shelter to marine vessels from strong winds, tides, and waves. Harbours can be natural, semi-natural, or artificial. They can be located on the seashore, a riverbank, a lake, or a canal, and they can be further classified by what they are used for, being a marina harbour, military harbour, commercial harbour, fishery harbour, or a harbour of refuge. The term harbour is somewhat interchangeable with port. A port is a place on the coast that facilitates the loading and unloading of cargo. When a harbour is used for commerce and trade purposes, including cargo, passengers, or anything that generates revenue, these harbours are called ports. One rule to remember is that all ports are harbours. However, all harbours are not ports. A quay is a general term for a part of the riverbank or coastline that has been modified so that it can be used for mooring and for the loading and unloading of goods and passengers. It is situated parallel to the shore and built solid. A wharf is the quay at which ships dock in a port or terminal, as well as the adjacent warehouses in which goods are stored before loading or after unloading. A quay is more or less synonymous with a wharf, and the two are often used interchangeably. A berth, much like a wharf, is also the quay at which ships dock in a port or terminal. However, unlike the wharf, berth only refers to this landing spot. It does not include the warehouses and other infrastructure. Each terminal or port will have several berths so that they can service several ships at one time. A dock is an enclosed area of water in a port where ships are loaded, unloaded, built and repaired. In North America, the term dock is used interchangeably with pier or wharf. But in Britain, a dock is referring to the area of water in between the piers or wharves. Within the British definition, there are three general types of docks. Wet docks, which have gates to control water and allow ships with high tidal ranges to remain afloat at low tide. Dry docks, which have gates that allow water to be emptied for maintenance of underwater parts. And floating docks, which lift a ship out of water when no land-based facilities are available. A pier is a platform on piles or pillars, projecting from the shore into the water, which allows the tide and current to flow underneath it relatively undisturbed. There are three main types of piers: working piers, pleasure piers, and fishing piers. Generally speaking, a jetty is a long, narrow structure that stretches from the shore into the water and protects the shoreline from the currents, tides, and waves. The two principal kinds of jetties are those constructed at river mouths and other coastal entrances, and those used for the berthing of ships in harbours and offshore where harbour facilities are not available. In many cases, it shares this second definition with piers, and these two terms are now used more or less interchangeably. For example, the very first iron pleasure pier was named the Margate Jetty, even though it's quite clearly a pier.